Hi guys, hi people.
Hello.
Say
Hello.
hi, say
Hello.
hi.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
All
Hello.
right. So sorry for the delay. We have some technical issues that we went through just now. It was okay. We got past that, but anyway, the point is we are here right now. We are live. And thanks to my team, they're working so hard behind the scene to get us together. And yep, welcome to the Gamers ABC podcast. Yay! After
Woo.
after after so many months, like 2 months. Yep. So I figured that this episode is a special one. So I put on some special costume for you guys. I hope you guys like it.
Looks good on you,
And
bro.
hi guys, the in games are in the chat. Who else? We are Potato Prince, Banthy. Thanks for coming. Thanks for dropping by, you guys. Thanks for dropping by. And also, oh, I didn't realize I just saw my mom behind. She's sitting in the couch behind me. I hope you don't mind. Okay. Before I move on, before I go on, I would like all my guests to introduce themselves. It's the best way because they know themselves best. But we would not have Kieran here because he came down with food poisoning, and we wish that he would get a quick recovery soon. He needed rest for that, unfortunately. But maybe we could get him in the future episode. So why not we start with Jeremy Lim. You go first. Introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, guys. My name is Jeremy. I am completing a master's in clinical psychology currently. So I was asked to come on as as in the capacity of a psychotherapist to answer any questions and to hopefully shed a bit more light on mental health as well. Yeah, great to be here and passing it on to the next person.
Okay. Go on with Sam.
Hi guys, I'm Sam. I currently work as a PR and branding manager for Golden Screen Cinemas. Before this, I was a journalist, and then I moved into PR, and that's how I kind of ended up in branding. I've actually been suffering depression for about 10 years, or well, close to 10 years. But it started back in 2010, so I'm still fighting it, but I'm, here today. I really want to talk about it, and I think it's important to talk about mental health awareness.
Okay. Aki, would you like to do the honor?
Yeah. Hi guys. I'm Aki Carlito, Twitch streamer, creative Twitch streamer. I'm 22 years old. I graduated recently from the One Academy as a concept artist, and I don't have depression, but I have anxiety issues and stuff like that. And I'm here to kind of share my experiences and how it kind of got worse back in the days and stuff like that. But yeah, hi guys.
I guess the last one, Ali. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lee. I just finished, just graduated, got my master's, and then I've been suffering with depression and anxiety for about 8 to 9 years, but I only started recovering end of last year and beginning of this year.
Okay. So, yep, guys. Before we go on to the main question and the main Q&A and also the content, I would like to also announce a few things. Okay. This is actually our first mental health awareness episode as well. So, because you guys know that I don't know, you guys read newspapers anymore. I don't think so, right? I think maybe like from Facebook, more Facebook than newspaper. But recently, the Star newspaper showed that there were like about 4.2 million Malaysia alone, who suffer or living with mental health issues. And all these people are coming from the range of 16 years old and above. and most of them are depressed, suffering from depression. So by year 2020, I fast forward because there's so many statistics and also numbers. In year 2020, mental health issues will be the number 2 health problems, or health disease in Malaysia and also worldwide, right after heart diseases. So and I've read some of the reports here. In Malaysia alone, the National Health and Morbidity Survey from 1996 is only like 10 or 11% of Malaysians, but after 10 years, or maybe after like the digits double. Now it's like about 30%, like 29 something percent, but it's a huge like increase, and it's very fast. So why I want to do this episode for mental health is because, well, we don't learn about this in the school. We don't have teacher, or we don't have a professional from the hospital or medical field to come to the school and talk to us about what is mental health issues, because in children, or in primary school or in secondary school, anyone can get mental health illness or issues as well. And at workplace, when we are adult, we go outside, we just want to earn a living, for ourselves and for the family. Sometimes we also get stress from at work, or your boss, or your colleague, peer pressure and all that. Sometimes it just drives us crazy until we are actually crazy ourselves. So that's how I feel, and I want to make it, an awareness episode, so that everyone can start be mindful and also be conscious about mental health as much as you care for your physical health, because only physical health is not enough. We also need to know about mental health and how we maintain the healthiness of our mental as well. And just some disclaimer and also some house rules. None of us here in the podcast are actually professional practicing psychologists, except Jeremy Lim. And so the objective of this podcast is to bring awareness on mental health and issues. And also, we have mods that will, constantly monitor the chat for any important questions. So guys, when you are asking questions, be serious about it. This kind of stuff is not for play. It's not, for show. So it's and also be mindful of others. Please respect one another, because these kind of things, mental health issues or disorder, whatever it is not prejudice, and it's not they don't discriminate. If you say this, if you don't respect others, you hurt others, it might come back to you. So it's karma as well. So be mindful of that, or else our moderators will not hesitate to ban you from this channel. And also, we do not entertain any bad behaviors. Yeah, basically, just don't be an asshole, huh? I have to be straightforward. Don't be homophobic, racist. Don't be don't be sexism. Don't what else? Transphobic and all that stuff. Be a nice person tonight. Just tonight. And if you have any question, please tag or please hashtag our mods and also our host or whoever guest that you want to ask the question. Please hashtag it, because in that way I can easily identify the question, and then I may or may not pose your question or address your question on air immediately, but I will try. I'll try my best to bring it up on air, so that we can also have other questions and have other knowledge and learning stuff together. So, hi Toka, welcome to the podcast, Toka. All right. So enough talking. I want to let you guys talk now. Okay, the first question. I think I'll let Aki answer this first, yeah, and then after that I will call your name, and then you can also share your answer. What did you go through last time? I mean, when did you realize you have been coping with mental health issues, Aki? Would you like to share?
Yeah. So honestly, like I didn't really realize it for the longest of time until after I went through a lot of things. So the reason or the time when I went through it was actually because of uh, I was in a toxic relationship. It was really bad. It was like a 3-year relationship, and the person that I was with at the time apparently did something called gaslighting. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically when you get gaslighted, you start to question yourself in a lot of things. Like you question your. For me, in my case, it was like I started questioning a lot of the things that I remembered or the things that I told him and stuff like that. And it was pretty bad at the time. And I didn't know that I had anxiety. I was just like, oh, I'm just, being worried. And that's like, I think, something that I was going through at the time. It was only like after the breakup and after everything, after meeting with my best friend's mother, who's a psychiatrist. She talked to me about it, and even then she didn't tell me I had these issues. She was just there for me, and it was after everything that I was told that I was getting gaslighted. I have anxiety and stuff like that. So it was way after I got over everything. That's when I was actually told about it, and that I realized I actually have that issue.
Oh, I see. Okay. What a just slide in, and what a smooth. She didn't like straight away say, "Oh, you must be having this, you must be having that."
Yeah. I was in all seriousness. I really appreciated everything that I feel like I've been very lucky in my life. I have very amazing friends, especially with my best friend, and her mother is very sweet, and
okay,
she being able to talk to her about it, because I think this is an issue when it comes to talking about these kinds of stress or feelings that you get, is that you don't, even though people say or parents tell you like talk to me, it's very hard. You can't actually pull yourself to talk to your parents about it.
Yeah,
and it was after the issue, and after talking with Sophie's mother, who was the psychiatrist at the time. She kind of pushed me a bit to talk to my family, and because my background, it's kind of interesting. I didn't live with my actual parents for 12 years of my life. When I was a baby, I was living with an Indian family who love me, honestly. I love them to bits. They're amazing. I have 6 brothers. They're all so sweet. And I only moved in with my real parents when I was 13. And I think it's because of a lot of these things that it kind of started the whole anxiety thing as well. Because when I was living with my godparents, even though I was really happy, I would have moments where I would wonder about my parents. Like, why did you leave me here? Even though I'm happy, but I still want to know why. Why was I kind of left? And I have a younger sister and a younger brother who wasn't left with them. And it was a lot of like questions in my head. I didn't really think about it fully until after the whole toxic relationship, and it kind of brought me closer with my actual parents. And yeah, sorry, it's a lot of backstory stuff.
Yeah, I understand. This, guys, for your information, this gonna be like a long session. But of course, in between, we'll try to take breaks because this is some really strong stuff. Okay, I'm moving down to Sam. Sam, would you like? I'll go from. We'll talk about what you guys have been through, and then we'll come back with the question for Jeremy, what his opinion or what his professional view and advice for us. Okay, so Sam, would you like to share with us what you went through, and then when did you realize you've been coping with mental health issues?
Right. So for me, it was, I think it started like about close to 9 years ago. 9 years, yeah. I was in a job that was pretty high pressure. It was very stressful. It was long hours. I felt really trapped in that job. And it didn't help that I was going through a lot of stuff at home, in my relationships, in my, but mostly I think it was, the catalyst was really work. I felt. I had a really tough boss. She was a tough cookie to work with. I learned a lot from her, but I felt like that was the time that I was really pushed to the corner and I couldn't move. Anxiety. I got anxiety issues. I was hit with like unnecessary fears of, someone is going to come down and swoop down on me. And that kind of escalated into a point where I just felt useless and worthless. And to a point, it was like going to work every day and not knowing what you're doing with your life, and you just feel like crap. Yeah, right. So, luckily, I had friends then who were like, "Oh, you know what? I think you should go see a doctor and check it out." And I did go and see the doctor, and for the first time ever, I didn't expect to be told that, you kind of have to get onto meds, and that was how I got into meds for a bit. And I felt like that wasn't me, it was not something that I wanted to be on for a long time and a long period. So I took the meds for a while. I think it was probably about 3 to 6 months. But eventually I just kind of thought to myself that this is not me. I don't want to be in this. And maybe there's another way to deal with it in a more holistic way that was more, natural, that I didn't have to use meds, so to speak. So I'm talking from a medical perspective, right? I haven't taken meds before. I just stopped and I didn't take the meds anymore. I just got off. I cut off the things that were triggers then. So I left the job. I started anew. I dealt with issues at home and everything, and I just tried to move on with my life and started going to the gym and that kind of thing. And there was a warning that came then from the doctor who told me that you kind of have to deal with depression in a step by step, stage by stage kind of thing. But I didn't do that, and that was something I felt that probably was the reason that led to many episodes that came down over the years, which I kind of ignored. It would come through things that would, towards the end of the year, I would feel like I didn't do much. I felt useless again. I felt worthless again. I would keep questioning who I was and what I was doing in my life, until it came to a point where it was at its worst last year, and I felt at that point that I've reached this pinnacle that I would kill myself now, and that was really the pinnacle of it. I didn't dare tell anyone. I really didn't dare tell anyone. So this is probably the first time I'm publicly talking about it. I felt that it was really the end for me. I thought of many ways to kill myself, and eventually, again, I thought, I think it's time to see a doctor, but I didn't have the courage. And again, I had a great support system. I had some friends who knew about this depression. They came back to me and they said, "Hey, we could help you," and we took it through a very holistic way, which was both spiritual, I feel, and as well as they helped me find purpose. That was one of the things I felt that they did help me. And eventually I felt the courage enough to go to the doctors and restart my medication. So I got into medication for a bit. I think now it's officially 1 year and it's stopped. I've officially stopped taking the pills. So I would say that I successfully completed the course this time, and I didn't cut the course off. So that's pretty much my story. Being, starting with depression and not finishing it up properly, and coming to this whole circle of where I am and who I am today. And yeah, so here I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, both of you did cover like most part of the follow-up question as well, because the next question I was going to ask was what were the ways of coping during that time? Like you said,
Oh.
you went and seek friends, and there were
Sorry,
friends who
jumped the
about
gun.
it.
No, I mean, just ask anyways, I guess, because
No,
we'll try to answer
because-
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, because that's why I'm telling you guys that this is gonna be a long session, because we have so much to talk about, and that's why every question I have to break them down. You see, because sometimes we might miss them out, and then we can put them in afterwards, like a follow up. So yep, I'm interested to also listen to Ali. I think he has a longer version, longer story. Yeah, I think that's why.
Yeah, I cut mine down to.
Okay, so let me repeat the question again. What did you go through before, and when did you realize you have been coping with mental health issues? Ali, would you please share with us?
Yeah, thanks. Basically, I was studying 9 years ago. I was studying overseas, and it was became quite stressful. And then suddenly, I start developing a lot of problems mentally, and it got in my way of studying, and I became suicidal and everything. So I came back to Malaysia, and then I went and seek a psychiatrist who told me I have depression and anxiety, and I should take medicine. But I think similar to Sam, that upon taking medication, you don't feel that it's
Necessary.
yeah. So that's how I felt, but I kept on, but I continued to take the medication, and medication grew stronger, and I grew sedated, and very, like every day is like meh, I'm like a zombie.
Mhm.
What, like it went on for like many, I visited the doctor, and then the doctor insisted I should take the medication, and then up to 2 years ago, when I went and went for a second opinion. It's just a psychiatrist. She didn't like basically she didn't give me a medication or anything. She just gave a second opinion, and that's when I start to battle with it. I'm having all these thoughts, and at the same time I'm feeling.
Mhm.
So yeah, for me that I well, the amount of stuff that they want me to take. So that was also at the point of my life where I start to drink a lot. But I just drink to sleep and things like be so depressed, and yeah.
Okay.
But I think it got to the worst. It was 2 years ago when I started to get hooked. An immediate cure for all my symptoms, because I started to get dependent on crystal meth. So
Okay.
that was the time where I realized that, this substance, it really helped me, because I stay awake. I don't have appetite. I can function. I'm alert. I'm awake and all that. And realizing that, the problem with that on
Okay. Hold on.
Yeah.
Lee.
Sorry.
Lee, hold on. Because I think your audio is
Is it?
very choppy. Yeah, it's very choppy and also
Sorry.
lag. I think no, it's okay because you can't hear yourself. Uh, I actually get you up to you took a heavier dosage, right? And then you feel you're sedated.
I was
And after that-
sedated. That-
Yeah.
I
After
was
that,
can you
okay.
listen now?
Okay, we try again. Can
Sorry.
you maybe move to another side or
Me.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll.
You can
Oh yeah,
you can
that's creepy enough.
can you say something so that I
Hello,
let's see.
hello. Testing.
Okay. Is it better,
Is
guys?
it better?
Yeah,
Yep.
I think it's
Okay,
better.
sounds good. Sounds
I
good.
hear it.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry
So-
about that.
Yeah.
No, no,
No,
no,
it's
no.
okay.
I
It's
have
okay.
cut-
It's not your fault.
I have tons of wall
Uh,
in between me and the router.
Yeah. So I'm so sorry to ask you to repeat that again, Lee.
Oh, it's
can
okay.
Can you start from the higher dosage part?
Well,
Can you?
yeah,
Yeah.
I was prescribed with higher and higher, like more and more sedatives to get me calm. Well, calm, I feel like a zombie. So
Mhm.
I eventually sleep a lot, and I get sedated most of the time. And then it was until 2 years ago when I met a doctor, and she told me that she disagreed with the amount of medication that I've been prescribed, and she feels that I've been overprescribed. And also, that was the same time where I start to develop, even under taking medication, even when I'm taking medication, I get so depressed because I'm taking medication and because I'm so sedated. It's like a catch-22 thing. But ultimately, I start abusing substance, and it started off with alcohol and later with crystal meth. So that was when it became like, crystal meth felt like a cure for me. That was how I felt happy at that time. It's like it
I
felt
see.
like, oh, I'm awake. I'm energetic. I instead of sleeping 14 hours a day, I'm awake 3 days in a row. So that had a toll, and eventually that lasted for 9 months. So I was in a complete mess. And yeah, so but someone did come and save the day, and I guess that's your next question, I guess.
Yeah.
I leave you on a
can continue
cliffhanger.
on.
Can
Yeah.
I? Okay.
Okay. Okay. You eventually you met someone, and then someone that told you to go and seek help. and
Well,
also get-
well, what happened was, I was having I had friends. I have friends there when I was studying, because when I was studying abroad, and then I have friends there. They were a bunch of friends who were Buddhists, and then we are. I mean, I know them for like, at that time was like already like 4 years, and then so they tried to help me by engaging with dialogues and everything, and I was stubborn. And then
see.
eventually they went ahead, and because they grew so worried because it went on for like so long, and then they got so worried, and then they contacted my parents. So what my parents developed, it was a very surprising thing, because they weren't angry, as I thought they would be, but they were very sad, in fact. So they came, at least one of them came, my dad came, and then he was like, I have to say this, my whole family are Buddhists, and they're very devout Buddhists, and we, and also, because my dad came and he showed me so much compassion that I've ever seen from him, and then, but a very strict sense, he was very strict, and then he was, because at that time I was like probably high as a kite, probably after 5 days of being awake and all that, and so he came to me, and then he confronted me. He came all the way, flew all the way to where I was studying, and then he came and confronted me, and then he asked me, "Are you taking drugs?" And I finally broke down to him, because when I was taking drugs, and then I started to realize that drugs was kind of ruining my life, but I couldn't stop. That's where the addiction was the master of me, instead of me controlling my actions. So I started developing other things, like my anxiety went off the roof. So I started having like obsessive compulsive and short attention, and yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so my dad took me home, and he kind of like let me rest, and he let me. He don't have to tell me anything. Eventually, I tried to find my way about after that, and I succeeded.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, at least you try, and somehow, by some way, in some way, you eventually find something.
Yeah.
All the respect, dude. All of the
Mhm.
respect.
Yeah. Before I moved on, I've seen. I've been reading in the chat column. Some of you have been, are still sharing your story. I will be forever grateful for you guys, because you guys tune in and stay with us and even share your bit of your stories or your what do you call mental health issues with us. But if you ever need someone to talk to, I think Jeremy Lim can help you out. You can just go to his website, which is relate.com.my, or maybe later we can list his. Can we share your email as well, Jeremy? If someone
I
ever
have.
wants to reach, yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. I have a relate email that I can send over later.
Yeah, I can. So if yep, we will also post that on the Fun Devils Discord. If you ever need to talk to someone, a professional, of course, and also if you need advice or how to deal with some situation like mental health issues or not, or even though if you have doubts or you're not sure whether it's mental health issue, you can always send an email to Jeremy Lim as well, so that you can get that sorted out before it's too late. Guys, mental health issues are really easier to treat when you first, at the initial stage, when you think that it is something wrong. Don't wait. If it's too late, it will cost you more, and then it will take more time, and then you have to take higher dosage. Like some happened to Sam and Lee, and then the treatment will be longer. So once of course, you will not know that you yourself will get the mental health issues. That's when you rely on other people, the people that live closest to you, your family, your close friends, your co-workers and all that. They are the ones. That's why we need to keep spreading the awareness, so people will know, people will take note, people will be more aware, not just brush off, maybe it's just a phase lah, maybe next week he will come back better, or no. Because mental health issues are not physical illness that we can see. For example, you break your leg, next day you come in with a clutch, and then or you fell down to the drain, and then we can see the bruises and all that. But mental health issues, we can't see it from eyesight. So be sensitive to your friends, your families, your co-workers. If they went off like a little bit, maybe it's something off, just voice out, just confront, or maybe as a courtesy, just ask, are you doing okay, how are you holding up, or do you like to take a break, something like that. So yeah, that's like care for each other more. Don't just leave it. Don't just do your own things. It's not right. So I know that the follow-up question seems a bit irrelevant. Like I put here the safety and security of your viewers. So some of us, or most of us, are streamers. Sometimes when we ourselves come down with some mental or depression or anxiety, but we still do the streaming, would it affect our viewers? But in this case, I would like to ask three of you, like during that time, during the your darkest time, do you think it has affected the relationship between you and your families, or your friends or your co-workers? Did they shy away from you, or did they try to avoid you? Aki, would you like to share? Is there any difference?
It's so during that time, when I was going through a lot of the stuff with the toxic relationship, actually, I shut myself off because when you're going through it, you feel very alone. And even if you try to talk to somebody, even if you try to talk to your friends, it's very hard because you, as a person, you'll feel that there is nobody who can understand you. That is literally all you can think about. It's like no one can understand what you're going through. And also you feel guilty when you do that because you're talking to somebody and making them worry, and these people care about you, and you. So it's a lot of mixed feeling. It's
Correct.
It's a lot of stress, and then you put more of it onto yourself with that. And at the time I remembered it was really, really bad, but I couldn't tell it too much to my friends because I was going and I was going through school as well. I was in art school, and the One Academy is very famous for its millions and millions of assignments where you have to go through, and which is not their fault because they're amazing school, by the way. But so sorry about the background noise. But what happened was that I would have, like, I can't say episode, but like I would have times where I would try to go to bed, and this is like I was still talking to the ex at the time, and he made it a thing where he would randomly call me at like 3 a.m, and it would like because of time zone difference. He was in America at the time. Okay. And the time zone difference, and calling me 3 a.m, he would yell on the phone like, "Why didn't you pick up?" If I missed even one of the calls, and it kind of broke me in a way at the time, and I went through a lot, and I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I only slept when I was worn out, and I couldn't do work. And because I couldn't do work, I felt guilty. I felt like I wasn't doing anything. It was a lot of guilt and stress, and I couldn't even tell like everything at the time because I would talk to my friends. I would talk to Sophie especially, because we're best friends, and she's been my friend for now she's been my friend for like almost 9 years. We're going to go into 10 years next year. Almost a decade of my life with her. And this is the thing, it was so bad to the extent that even when my best friends were telling me, "No, it's not your fault, it's not you, it's actually him," and all I could say, because I was very badly gaslighted. I was told that I was a manipulative person, that I was sociopath, that I was using my friends, and all these things I believed at the time. I honestly, truly believed that I was that kind of a person. And whenever people tried to tell me otherwise, they would be like, "Aki, you're not. You're amazing. You're my friend, and you've been sweet, and you've been nothing but that." And all I would hear in my head at the time was that I made them say these things. I manipulated them to feel what they're feeling, and it was bad. It was really bad because I would tell myself that every night, and it didn't help that I was still holding on to the relationship with this person, and I didn't see him as the issue. I saw myself as the issue, and I think so. I think I'm going really sidetracked. What was the original?
It's okay.
Yeah.
I would say that when you are not yourself, sometimes you will know that who's your true friends or who's not during your darkest hour, or during the time that you're not being able to be yourself.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Then it's sometimes that we are even being manipulated, instead we using them the other way around. So that was the question that I was trying to ask, because if you guys remember during your darkest time, would you be feeling, how to say it, would you realize and discover the saying was true, like, oh, when I'm down or when I'm broke, I know who's my true friends are. So this is kind of kind of the question that I want to point out. So but how about for you, Sam? Did you found new best friends, or did you lose your friends? I mean, during your darkest days.
I wouldn't say I lost any friends. Sorry. I wouldn't say I lost any friends. I had friends and family who saw the change in me. I think they kind of noticed that I kind of became a very quiet person. I had this facade at work where I was in control of things. I knew what I was doing. I was leading a team, and I kind of came home and was slightly different, and it was kind of like trying to deal with my insecurities because at work I was put under not just a lot of pressure. I mean, I had a boss who would belittle me, who would literally tell me I'm shit. Sorry.
Okay.
I will tell you you're crap, and then tell you say your work is not great. You know nothing, you do nothing, and pretty much that. So I had while I was learning, I was also going through all this mental abuse at work, and I got home, and then I was dealing with other issues at home, which I can't probably remember now. It's probably too insignificant now to remember. But at that time, even the smallest, most insignificant detail at home kind of blew up. And I remember eventually came to a point where my parents were like, hey, why are you acting like this? I just asked you a question and you kind of lashed out at us. And I remember saying to my parents once, it doesn't matter what I say or do, because technically no one cares about me. No one cares if I was dead. No one cares if I was alive. No one cares if I just felt like at the rock bottom. And that was the kind of the moment where my parents also said, I think you should see a doctor, you go see someone, talk to someone, and figure out what's wrong. And that was it. So this continued over, because I didn't deal with it and I didn't have closure then. Over the years, it still recurred. I still constantly felt like I was not good enough. I was useless. I was just completely, I wasn't just using resources and not totally doing or contributing back anything. And then eventually it felt like this thing kind of like I'm using resources and all that, and then it's more of a you're not achieving anything and you're a waste of space, and you kind of get the idea lah. So by the end of the thing, I felt like there's nothing to prove, and I kept looking for things to prove that I was a meaningful person. It was whether I was buying things, and I went into this frenzy where I was just shopping, or I would end up eating, or I would end up wanting to go on a holiday. And a lot of this is exacerbated by the fact that we have so much access to things like social media, for instance. You see social media, people are traveling, and people are going somewhere, and people are doing things with their life, and you feel like you are nothing. And that was the worst. So you just get to, I mean, in, how do I put this? Instead of feeling like you're being jealous of someone's capability, they can go travel, they can go to the places that you only wish you can wish to go there, or things or achievements that they achieve. They show that you can only dream of. You, instead of feeling that way, you tend to choose to do other stuff to fill that void. Something like that. Yeah, so
like
it's
compulsive buying stuff that you don't really need, or eating.
I mean, I think it's more of it feels like there's the difference between envy and then you're like, I really like look at someone and I'm a little bit like I really envy them being able to do this, being able to travel and all that. But I kind of turn it back onwards on myself, and I'm like, you cannot travel because you don't want. I could, because I didn't plan. But you turn it back on myself, and it's like, you didn't travel, so you're useless. You didn't get anything this year, so you're useless. You didn't do this, so you're useless. And it kind of repeats as a mantra. And so by the end of the year, and by the end of the year, you just feel like crap, and then it kind of like ended up looking for something to hold on to prove that you're still living and breathing. And And eventually one day you just like, done.
Yeah.
I just want to kill myself.
Oh yeah, I just want to say hi to Candy Apples. He was like, "Holy shit, meet Joe Fair." Highlight in the chat. By the way, welcome to the podcast, people. It's like people with living with cancer will say, "Oh, that's the cancer talking," and now that is so true as well. And now this is the mental, disorders talking. So before we wrap up the first question, we have another one like Ali. During those days that you were living with mental health issues, did you lose any friend, or did your parents treat you any different now than then? Would you like to share with us? I think the choppiness coming back.
I'm trying to do the keto thing. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
Better.
Am I better? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. So basically, in terms of friends, I seem to realize I get to see people who are absolutely patient with me throughout these years. And I'm talking about 5-6 years patience, 10 years patience. They've been there, they've been patient with me, even though I just, my mood was, I was like, a demon. It's like, it's horrendous. I throw it at everyone else. So yes, that's the one. Even my parents, like my parents, my family, I get frustrated really easily, and then I'll just, and they grew more and more understanding, over the years. They start to pick up how, like, what depression is like, and they start to read up on how medication works on me and how it affects me and all that. So yes, my relationship with my parents or family are better, but you get to see, like you said, you get to see who's your true friends. It's just I get to realize what friends are and what acquaintances are. You get to see the distinction, the big difference between them both.
Okay. So yeah, thanks for sharing. Your story, you guys. This is really amazing. Even because when I was preparing for this podcast, I was like, I beginning to feel so bad because for making you guys digging all this, what you call all these worms up again, and then reliving it again, because I know it's not easy. It's not easy living with mental health issues. For one, I myself been through that at a very young age, but fortunately I got saved, maybe salvation from joining Christianity. Christianity taught me something from there. That was my past life, I think I can say. Before moving forward, and also having a small break, I would like Jeremy to highlight a few common mental illnesses that young people suffering or not experience but living with, and how do we kind of like identify them, or sort like maybe we have the awareness, or maybe this has something to do with this illness or something to do with that illness. Would you kindly enlighten us on that, Jeremy?
Sure. That's a great question, by the way. So thank you everyone for sharing your stories also. It's always very powerful to kind of hear what happens from the person who is experiencing it versus more kind of head knowledge sometimes that we see like in the newspapers and stuff. So I think like what Joe mentioned, there has been some statistics that show that currently there are approximately, give or take, about 30% of Malaysians who are experiencing mental health issues, and that amounts to about, give or take, about 4+ million people. Many of whom maybe might find it difficult to talk about, or to bring up about it, because it's still quite a big stigma in Malaysia, unfortunately. So in terms of the most common mental disorders, some of them have already been raised here. The two biggest ones that we found across countries basically have actually been depression and anxiety. And this is true for basically pretty much around the world from what we've seen also. And I think to kind of identify them sometimes can be a bit difficult, because most, if not, I would say most mental disorders are actually relatively normal parts of our lives. But when they become problematic is when they begin impairing or becoming so big, essentially, that they start making our life unlivable, essentially. So, for example, let's say we take anxiety. Everybody has anxiety. It's a form of protection, actually, to help alert us to possible danger or something that we need to be aware of, a threat, for example. But when it becomes so difficult to live with that, we can't go to work, it's affecting our relationships, then that's when we begin to say, okay, there is an issue here, and we need to start looking at it. So in terms of identifying it, there are certain usually symptoms associated with it, and I think each of the rest of us here have also talked about some of them. So, for example, like in depression, a lot of people, some people might think that depression is sadness, but sometimes it's more than just that. It's kind of it. We found that one of the most common experiences is basically a low mood, essentially, that it's near impossible to shake off, and it's so bad that it begins to interrupt your daily activity. So some things to look out for are possibly things like you're losing interest in things that you're normally interested in. The low mood is one. Then other things are usually more physical. So difficulties eating or sleeping, difficulties concentrating, feeling just very tired. And going on for a period of time. So then, of course, we have anxiety also, which can be characterized by two parts, which is fear and anxiety. So fear is a more physiological reaction to how we experience anxiety. So that's the body's reacting, essentially. So you get sweaty palms, you sweat, your heart beats fast. Whereas anxiety is more the emotional. Anxiety is more the associated with things like muscle tension. You become very prepared for danger, and you start being very cautious or avoidant. So some things to look out for. Other mental health issues are definitely there. Things like possibly bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. But depression and anxiety have been found to be the most common ones that we've seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, would you say, like, for example, anxiety and depression, would that lead to the more severe illnesses like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, all these things? Is there a possibility that this anxiety and depression that we faces most would lead to more dangerous illnesses? Would you say it is?
I wouldn't say it's more dangerous per se, as it's more different types of mental disorders.
I see.
There is a possibility that because most of the time when sometimes when people experience one disorder, I cannot say most of the time. Sometimes when people experience one disorder, they may also experience other disorders along with it. So, for example, I think we talked about how you can have depression and you can still be feeling anxious at the same time. So different disorders can kind of happen together. It's kind of like you can have a flu and a sore throat, for example. It's not just one or the other. But whether it can lead to other disorders, it depends. I can't just say yes or no. So it's possible,
it depends.
But it really depends on individual to individual, person to person.
And also, I guess a lot of the factors are affecting this because the way the lifestyle, the people around, the condition, and also environment, the workplace. How does that contribute to to drive ones to mental illnesses? So the next one, let's see if I want to ask. Okay, Is there any online assessment or what kind? I mean, is there any online material that we could actually do before seeking help, or do we just go straight to a clinic and ask for help? You know, do you have
Also,
any advice on that?
yeah, also a great question. So when we don't feel well, at least my experience, and I've done this before. So like when I'm not feeling physically well, normally I'd like try to Google it and see, okay, what's really happening here.
Yeah.
But sometimes when it's our mood and our thoughts that are being affected, then it's then we because when that happens, our perception is also affected. So we might not be the best
Correct.
judge of what is going on. So if you do feel that something is not right, I would advise actually to maybe it would be better to not self-assess. What you can actually do is that, and because it's much harder to basically figure out what's going on, so you can actually go and seek professional help, because the first session with most psychologists or counselors or therapists would be kind of figuring out with you, is there something there that we need to look at? We don't just like you don't just come into a session and we just go, okay, you have this, you have this, you have this. But we want to kind of work with you to figure out, okay, what's happening here? Is there something that we need to look at? Yep. And so, and there's no obligation that after you come for the first session, and if you go, actually, after we talk, maybe it's not so serious, I'm okay. Then there's no obligation to come back. Or you might feel, okay, there is something I want to work on here. Then we can also proceed from there. So, yeah. Basically, yeah. And there are, there are diagnostic assessments. Yeah.
That's been on my mind too. Like, should I like walk in and book myself in, check in? So for some of you guys who are like me, like thinking, oh, should I do it, or should I just walk in? Should I just book myself with a psychiatrist or psychology to assess? Or is there anything else to do before that? Yep, there you go. That's the answer. Okay. I think the next question also is not quite relevant, because when we have mental health issues or disorder, we might not want to tell our parents or anyone at all. We'll just keep to ourselves, because as Jeremy said, we are not the our judgment and also our emotional are not ourselves anymore. So it's been controlled by the illness and other stuff. But anyway, I would like to ask too, because I want to know what are your thoughts? Should we like actually tell our loved ones and anyone closest to us about our condition? For example, like maybe maybe my colleague felt something off from me, and then he or she said, okay, I think today you're not quite you. What happened, or something like that. And then after that, when after work, the end of the day, I go back and then I think about it, and then I was like, oh, okay, maybe I was. So should I tell my loved one, or should I tell my parents, I have this condition? Should I go and see someone? What do you think, Jeremy?
That's actually a pretty tough question, honestly. I need to add a caveat that if you do seek a mental health professional, if you are less than 18 years old, basically you're a minor, we are obligated to have to contact your parents, because unfortunately you are not yet you're basically not legal yet to seek services on your own. It's like coming to a doctor kind of thing. But in terms of telling your loved ones, I would actually raise the concept of safety here, because while for some of us we have the space to be able to talk to parents or friends, and that's an amazing thing. Having that kind of social support is always amazing. But if sometimes these people might not be able to provide us that kind of safe place, so I would say that if that is the case, then it might not be so helpful to talk to them. But to seek out people who are safe enough for you to be able to tell these things to. People who can support you and encourage you on your journey as well, because you're already facing something difficult. So if the person might respond negatively, that doesn't usually help. Aki also raised a good point that if you are underage and you are in school, you can definitely go and seek out the school counselors. So that's always an option also.
Instead of
Yeah,
actually
Aki,
going
that's a great
professional.
that's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If the teacher also willing to help, and they should do lah. But during my time, my teacher would just use the cane and punishment to.
I think now schools have started to implement counselors, and I was
Yeah.
lucky enough that I actually talked to a counselor when I was in
Oh,
high school.
nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. So if your school has a counselor and if you do feel the need, then definitely something to an option that you can explore.
Okay. That's a good one. So guys, if you feel like you need to talk to someone, go to your school counselor, teacher, or counseling teacher, or someone that you trust. Go to them and talk about it. Don't keep it to yourself.
But Joe,
the next.
just jump in here a bit.
Okay.
Coming from somebody who has depression, right? I actually realized that one of the things that I didn't like to do was to tell people. I didn't.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was trying
Very
to
stupid.
go for that question as well. So what? Yeah, keep coming.
Yeah, so for me, it was like in my initial stages, yes, I told my parents and then I went on with it and then I jumped out the treatment and then I went through it silently. But the last year one, when I was about to on the verge of suicide, I didn't want to tell anybody. I just felt like I was very ashamed about it. Like I felt like I was inadequate. I didn't want to go and tell anybody like, hey, I have this thing, people, because I realized it was the most natural response that people tend to get when you tell somebody that you're sick, right? Is they'll be like, oh no, you're just sad, you're just sad.
They just brush off. Yeah.
You're sad, or you're pretending, or maybe you're seeking attention. That's the worst. I
And-
cannot.
And the worst is because we live in Asia, where a lot of people, when you bring this up, they're like, no, there's you deal with your problem and then you go. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like that's the mindset we have here.
Yeah, so I got things like, I didn't want to tell anybody that, it's very hard to tell people that you are sick and you're not feeling well, but you don't know how to explain it because it's a mental sickness, right? So even I feel that sometimes I do think, I wonder if people, when they do talk to their counselors, are the counselors trained enough to be able to respond with the right responses, or they say, oh no, you're just, emotional, or, you're just, it's something that will pass, and the kind of responses that don't seem to be able to help, rather than it makes them feel scared or embarrassed or ashamed to be able to speak about it. And I always feel that's the major thing. And even as an adult, at 32, I still feel that I didn't want to tell anybody. And when I did tell anybody that it was almost like in a very like, oh, by the way, I'm sick, I'm not feeling well, and people, and that was very, for me, I felt that was wrong. I should be able to talk to somebody and say, hey, I'm not feeling well, or tell my parents about it. But my parents don't know, and probably don't know until they see this podcast, right? And my friends or my colleagues, like when one of my colleagues saw me popping pills every day, she was like, what pills are those? And I was like, I didn't know what to say. I told her I'm having depression, and she was like, what? And that's the second thing, when people look at you, they're like, oh, you're very happy and, a happy-go-lucky guy, you smile all the time, and you are the least person that I would expect you to have depression. But here you are the person that smiles the most, and you're the person with depression, and you don't tell anybody about it. And that was something I felt that was, it's a catch-22. You tell somebody and you feel stupid about it, but you don't tell somebody, then you're in trouble. And you get
That's why just before we go to break, to give a little perspective and also advice, what do you think how we should handle this kind of situation, Jeremy? Like, we have no one else that we want to talk to, or we didn't actually want to talk to anyone, So how do you?
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up, Sam and Aki. I think that's actually a really good point, because part of basically the function of how depression has been found to work is a lot of thoughts turn inward. So it's you kind of start thinking negatively about yourself, about other people, and kind of about the world. And it's this triad of thoughts essentially that kind of focus, combined with social stigma, that makes for very non-conducive environment to begin talking about it. Um, what I would say here is, again, I think I would raise the point of seeking somebody safe to be able to talk to. Unfortunately, the stigma is still that if if you smile every time, oh, you're the happy guy, what do you mean you have depression? You're not serious, are you? That's a very common response, unfortunately, and
Sadly.
that response actually can make us feel even more like, yeah, I shouldn't have depression. What's wrong? Or it's that you're, yeah, or make you feel like this isn't right. I think the first one I would say is, number one, if you are experiencing something that you suspect is serious, um, it would be start talking to somebody, start talking to people who are safe enough for you to begin to do that. So a counselor or a school or a therapist. School counselors, I cannot vouch for all of them, unfortunately, but I know that at least most of them are pretty well trained. If not, there are other places like if you feel like you are in danger, maybe harming yourself, there's always the befrienders line that you can call to kind of have somebody to talk to who will be able to maybe be able to begin validating what's happening. Then perhaps also and I will encourage you to definitely seek help. Essentially, there are more clinics now. Definitely, you can actually walk into. My understanding of it was that you can actually walk into most like clinic kesihatan. You can tell the doctor, and they can actually provide you a referral letter to go to like a psychiatrist or a psychologist in the hospital. Also, if that's really if other options are not available for you at that point.
Okay. So, guys, thank you so much for sharing. We are not going away or ending. We are going for a short break. Thanks, Jeremy, for the answer as well. So, just stay tuned with us, guys. Be sure to come back again. We are just going to take like maybe a few minutes. How long can we have, Lizara? Maybe about 3 minutes. Yep. Okay, we'll be right back, people.
Are we off?
We muted. Okay, go for it. Sorry, I didn't hear you. No, because you were standing there like, eh? Oh, okay. Uh, Jeremy, you're back, right? I have one question from the viewer. He said, my question for the team is, someone that wants to help someone with a mental illness, but also doesn't want to encourage them to use their illness as a crutch to avoid living a life expecting. So, how would one differentiate between someone who is actually in need of help versus someone who is sick? All right. Welcome back, people. Thank you for staying in tune with us. So we actually want to. Okay, I actually want to highlight one question from Ed on Couch. He did actually get my attention. So I want to ask this to Jeremy because he's the professional here. Okay, he said, my question for the team is for someone who wants to help someone with a mental illness, but also doesn't want to encourage them to use that illness to as a crutch to avoid dealing with the actual problems in their life. So how would one discern between someone who is actually in need of help versus someone who is attention seeking? So Jeremy, would you please?
Thank you. Thank you. That's actually a very, very good question. Ed on the couch. Yeah, thanks, Ed.
Yeah.
On the couch. That's a really great question. I would say that it's actually honestly very difficult to discern somebody's intentions behind asking for help or whether they're just seeking for attention. So I would like to highlight two things here because it sounds like you do have the intention of helping. That's amazing. Keep that up. But at the same time, while you're trying to help somebody else, I would also say that it's usually very helpful to also make sure that you yourself are safe, emotionally as well as mentally. So it can be things like you've tried to help this person a number of times, but nothing really seems to be moving along or happening. How is it impacting you as the person who is helping them? Is it causing you more distress? Then in that case, it might be you might need to set a boundary saying, okay, we've already talked about this a few times. Unfortunately, I can't deal with this with you right now. Maybe these are other people that you can talk to or other people that you can try. But again, it's really difficult to discern. Even as a psychotherapist, in session, it takes a while sometimes to kind of figure out, okay, what is this person's real intentions? Of course, we want to hope for the best for everybody, but we know that sometimes that's not the case. So thank you for that question also. I hope I managed to shed some light on that.
Okay.
So keeping yourself safe also, basically, as well as investing your time in the other person.
Okay. So guys, keep the question coming because it's good. If you have question, you need to ask away because you won't get this answered elsewhere unless you book yourself, with a psychologist or consultation. So move on. I want to highlight this question because I want you guys to know, all of us here to know that even though you are living with mental health issues or in the past, there's always someone there for you. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's just like living with HIV or people living with cancer. It's not the end of the world, and mental health issue as well. If you take medication, if you follow the instruction of the doctors and also the psychologists. So to the rest of you guys like Aki, Ali, and Sam, what were your family and friends being supportive, and in what ways, and how about your viewers? If you have shared your your stories to your viewers on stream, or those of you who are in reality, when you tell your dark secret to your friends, how would they react? How did they react, and were they helpful to you? Okay, let's start with Ali. We go the background. Ali, were your friends and family supportive in what ways?
Well, I would say family was supportive. They helped me seek medical attention, and because I was still a student most of the time, so they kind of pay for the bills as well, so which helps a lot. But in terms of friends, I know they try to help, and some shied away. Some got scared, because I tend to be very, I would say, erratic, But I think in terms of relationship with other people, people who are really close to me, and I tend to, like you say earlier, Jeremy, that I drove them. I drove them into depression. It was very bad. Then to a certain extent that I just don't want to be around people because I might drive them into
I
depression.
see.
As if they try very hard to try to help me.
Okay. But
That
okay.
was bad. Yeah.
But when you come to realize that you were causing this, trouble to other people, do you think that they really? I mean, did they blame you for it, or do you think that they are just lacking of understanding, or they are just, they are just not aware, not enough awareness on what's going on with you during that time?
I feel that some really have the genuine heart to help me, but in terms of what they feel, whether they blame me, I don't know, because in the end I blame myself. So that's the natural go-to train of thought that I will have. It doesn't help with my depression as well. So yeah.
Okay. So okay. Do you have something to add on, Lee? Before I go to the next person.
No, nothing at the moment.
Sam, what about you?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Okay, question. Okay, were your family and friends being supportive, and if they were, in what ways? And how about your because the question were intended for your viewers, but in this case, maybe we will say your best friends or your colleagues or people around you. How were they being supportive in what way?
For me, I think when it first came to the early diagnosis bit, my parents were very concerned about my character change. The moody person I've become, and the very volatile person I've become, and they kind of were really there to take the steps to help me get better. So when I went to the first initial doctor visits, I went with my mom, and then I had friends who were there, friends who themselves were going through depression, and they too also were there to help me try and cope it from their perspective, and we tried to sort of go through it together. And then eventually when I left I tried to treat myself, right, for the moment. It was doing in silence for a while, until eventually when it got worse and I ran into the problems again last year. That was the time I was really surprised by the kind of support that I got from my friends, the people who found out what was happening to me, some of my triggers. They tried to really step out and help me and help me lessen the triggers, even try to give me the space I needed. Sometimes they would be like, I hope I'm not overcrowding you, but we love you and we care about you, and we would just want to make sure that you're okay. And once in a while, even if I don't talk to them, they come and say, hey, how's everything? So there was a really a good level of support, I felt. And even though there was this very positive support, I do feel that there was a time I was still very scared to tell everyone about it. So a lot of people didn't know, maybe a handful, probably less than 5 in my hand. But as I got a little braver to talk about it, and a little more braver to talk about to other people, they were either inspired by what I've gone through, and no one actually felt like I was seeking attention or I was making it up. So that was good for me, I felt. And yeah, I quite blessed to be able to find that kind of support from my friends and family.
So how about you, Aki? Did you have a bunch of friends that care for you during your time?
Yeah. I actually mentioned it in the chat earlier.
Yes.
It's like when I was going through a lot of these things, honestly, the biggest supports were my close friends, and one of the biggest support was actually Sophie. She she's amazing. She's very sweet, and she has been that person that she also has depression, by the way, but she's always there for me. She's just a positive force in my life. And another thing is that I mentioned earlier that I used to live with my god family, which is like a different family. But to me, I could not bring myself to tell it to them. I never told them anything at the time, and I wasn't close enough with my real parents at the time that I was. So I had no one to talk to family wise, I think, and my siblings as well. I wasn't able to talk to them, but as I was going through like just locking myself in my room and stuff, and it was just like this very simple gesture. I was like going through like very hateful ideas about myself, or like hateful thoughts about myself, and then I received like this little message my sister sent me. She was just like, open your door and just take a look outside a bit. And then it was very like, it's not even a big thing. It was very small. It was just like this cup noodle that she put outside the door, and until this day I remember it so clearly. And she had like a note on it, and she said that we know you're going through stuff. We know you're sad, and we know you're like, we know you're going through things, but know that me, mom, and dad all know this, and we're downstairs, and we'll always be downstairs. Just, whenever you're ready, you can tell us whatever it is you want to talk about. And oh my god, I cried so hard. I was like, oh god, and it was such
That's
a small
so
thing.
sweet.
Yeah, and it was just that small gesture that kind of pulled me back, and it just like cries and eats, like, because I had no appetite, I couldn't sleep, and it was a lot of things, and just like little gesture from her like that, it kind of made me want to actually try to talk to them, and I pulled myself out the next afternoon when they were back, and then we had a talk, and honestly, even though that whole time it was a very dark time, but like, yeah, these were like people that were with me, and they are still with me, and they are still so amazing, and I'm closer with them because of that.
All right. Thanks for all your sharing. For the next question, it's actually also brought up by one of the viewers as well. Rins 888. Yeah, Rins 888 said that, does gaming helps with depression, or in general, like cope with mental health issues? Like this one I would like to ask Jeremy, because I want to see
Play
if it's
Candy
true.
Crush and get stressed.
Yeah, do you think it's okay? Do you think it's gaming or streaming is a mechanism is a good mechanism to cope with mental health issues? What are the risks actually? Would you kindly share with us, Jeremy?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, it's a gaming channel. I am a gamer also, so I totally I get the appeal of many games most of the time. I think to answer this, I want to do my best to present a balanced perspective. So what we found in terms of at least the psychology field, and because video gaming has been has increased in intensity, as well as like kind of being very, very widespread over the recent years. So there has been a lot of research that has been done on the effects of gaming. So on the positive side, gaming actually has been found to be actually very helpful for actually a variety of things that you might not even be aware of. So it's things like the community, the social support is one of them, where like if you're let's say you're playing a MOBA, or you're on like an MMORPG, your guild can actually be a pretty strong sense of support. We have anecdotal stories of people who found that when they're going through things, and the guild actually supported them a lot, and that's amazing stories. Other positive things are, for example, gaming has actually been found to improve your basic visual processes. You're better able to discriminate between the visual stimuli, simply because that's happening on screen so much. People who game are more likely to have better attention and vigilance, better spatial attention, reduced impulsiveness, improvements in executive functioning for things like multitasking, mental flexibility. Because a lot of modern games, they require you to keep a lot of information in your mind. You are constantly switching tasks from one thing to another. There are different things you have to consider. Different stages, depending on what you're playing, may result in different win conditions. Again, a wide variety of different things.
Correct.
Unfortunately, and this is the part that a lot of gamers, including myself, when I first read about it, I'm just like, no, have been the negative side of gaming, unfortunately. Sorry. One more thing is that in answer to that question, for Rins, it depends. So gaming has actually been found to be effective as a temporary distraction, and it can help to alleviate emotional distress through like stress management, relaxation. You're kind of getting out of your issues a little bit. The problem starts, unfortunately, when evidence has shown that usually individuals who are already experiencing problems, they kind of retreat into gaming as kind of like an avoidance strategy, and that becomes problematic because then it becomes a cycle. You retreat into gaming, and then and because of that, gaming has actually been found to be actually related to depression and increase in depressive symptoms. So we're not saying that gaming causes depression or leads to depression, because we don't have the research to say that. But what research has found that it can actually contribute to increases in depressive symptoms. And therefore, it's like this kind of vicious cycle where you retreat into gaming, and because you become more isolated, you may you don't want to do certain things, and that leads you to more gaming, which results in more isolation, and so it just goes downwards from there. So again, we're not saying that gaming causes depression, but it seems to be a contributing factor. Besides that, also, I'm sure we've heard stories of gaming leading to violence and aggression and all of that. So at least from the American Psychological Association, who's been doing research on this for years, there has actually been found to be a relation of violent gaming exposure to increased aggressive behavior, increased aggressive thoughts, aggressive feelings, and increased physiological arousal. But again, we're not saying that all these things lead to violence, but they do seem to basically what happens with these games is that they put you in a state of increased arousal. So your arousal in this case being like you're very focused on these particular stimuli, and so you are more likely to look out for them and react in certain ways that maybe you might not have in that sense. But again, very, very where it's not, we cannot say it's causal. So, and of course, the last big thing about a risk of using gaming as a coping mechanism is addiction. This one we talked about before. So, in this case, research has the World Health Organization has actually just classified gaming. This is 2018 stuff, like really new. Has actually classified gaming as a potential addiction, and they call it gaming disorder, basically. So the idea here is that to receive this diagnosis, so to speak, they say that a person basically you can't control your gaming. It's gone to such an extreme that you are prioritizing gaming over other interest activities, and usually leading to negative consequences, usually physical. So I mean, we've heard stories of gamers who play for like 48 hours or 72 hours straight, and then they just correct, and then they keel over and die. And unfortunately, that is a potential reality. So it's a disorder when it begins to affect your family life, your social life, personal life, your education, your work. So all these things, basically, you're putting it aside in favor of gaming. That's when it can become problematic. And basically the issue with this is because gaming or games in general are actually built in such a way as to keep you playing. Games want to make you continue playing, and it's built into a very basic biological reward system in the brain. Long story short, basically, we have a biological loop in our brain that rewards us when we achieve something. So hormones and chemicals, they're called, especially dopamine. It's called the dopamine reward system. So it leads the brain to go, I have done something great. Then it floods your brain with the feel-good chemical. And so because you feel good, you want to feel it again. So you continue playing more. And that's kind of when it can become problematic. But again, we're not saying that everybody will become an addict. That's not true. Research has shown that a prevalence of about 3 to 6% of people usually can possibly become addicted. But for other people, they can play relatively long term and not suffer negative consequences. However, again, person to person and case to case basis.
Because the gaming addiction is a very huge spectrum, and also not every gamer or streamer is addicted.
Very true.
So we can't like we can't group them into the same, you do games. Like some streamers, they've been streaming and playing games in front of the camera for more than 10 years. We cannot say that they are an addict, because this is what they do, and then they do it responsibly. They didn't neglect their life, like not going for shower for 1 week, or didn't eat for 2 days, and then things like that. Didn't go for exercise. Yeah, so that's like really extreme. And the follow-up question was okay, is it okay for those who, okay, this one I think is for more to streamers. Do you think other than gaming, which is not the best way lah, obviously, other things that we can do, other exercise that we can do to cope with mental health issues, Jeremy?
Right. So to answer this question, I would like to break it down to two parts. The first part is what I would like to answer using what I call the SEEDS model, SEEDS. So the idea here is that, first of all, we want to be able to care for our basic needs. So the SEEDS model basically stands for sleep, education. Hold on, let me pull that out. It has disappeared on me. Where did it go? Okay. Sleep, exercise, education, diet, and social connectivity. So basic elements. So to begin coping with mental health issues, it's also a question of taking care of these basic processes first. So are you getting enough rest? Are you eating relatively balanced diet? Are you doing your best to maybe learn something new, even if it's something really small? Are you going for exercise? Research has shown that even something as simple as 10 to 20 minutes of aerobic exercise to get the heart rate going is already helpful. And of course, are you connecting with people at a deep level? So we heard from Sam, Aki, and Ali about how different people in their lives came in at different times to give them that support. That's amazing. Social support is is a very strong predictor and a very strong contributor to getting better, actually. And so it's really lovely to be able to hear that all of you have that support also. Then, of course, on the other side of it, in taking care of the basic ones, it might be it usually is helpful to begin admitting that we might need help, and to, of course, and if you really feel like there is an issue that is out of our control, to begin looking for help, essentially. So as I mentioned just now, psychologists or psychiatrists or counselors will be able to help with that. We are basically trained to help you figure out what's going on with you, and to also provide you that space to be able to talk about what's happening with you, especially if you don't feel comfortable talking to other people. Most of the time, we can guarantee confidentiality because we want to make sure that you feel safe enough to talk to us also, especially since what you raise usually can be very, very private, very, very difficult issues to talk about, and maybe you haven't really talked about them with anybody else before also.
Yeah.
So excited.
Yeah, could you repeat what's the SEEDS, the acronyms?
Sure.
Everyone is asking that. Oh, what SEEDS? What SEEDS? Okay. The first S, everybody jot it down,
sleep.
write it down. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sleep.
Then it's education.
The second one is education. The third E, exercise, and then the D is for diet, right?
Diet, yes. And the last S is social connectivity.
Okay. Not sex here, people. So write it down.
Well,
it may lead to sex though for the last one because it's social.
Because it is social.
yeah, sure.
And
So-
parts get connected anyway.
And then
Yeah, you are connected.
Okay, so a bit of fun stuff, right? Not like all the serious stuff all the time. So boring. So you see my viewers concurrent view has dropped, so I need to do tell some jokes. So so write it down, people. Those streamers, I want to see on on your monitor and paste it beside the monitor. Okay, don't forget all that 5
Yeah.
seeds.
And of course, we always talk about self-care. So the seeds are the basic seeds of self-care. But other things are, for example, sometimes, especially if you've been experiencing like a low mood for a while, something as simple as taking a bath can actually be very, very helpful.
Yeah,
Because it
Lizara
makes you
was
feel
saying
better.
hot bath. Yeah.
Yeah, actually. So just very basic small things to help get you feeling human again. Because sometimes when we're experiencing mental issues, it can lead you to feel like you're kind of less than human, if I can put it that way. Like you're not really worth very much. So doing these small things can actually be very helpful in getting you kind of up and at least going again, even if you're not fully recovered just yet.
So okay, another thing is, Jeremy, do you think like keep myself busy is a good way to cope? Not, so that I'm not precise enough. For example, if I have depression, I keep myself busy so that I don't think about it, so that I will get better. Is that a good way of coping?
Again, I would actually equate that to gaming, just like how gaming can actually be helpful or detrimental depending on how you use it. Keeping yourself busy can actually have the same result also. If you are keeping yourself busy and maybe acknowledging that, okay, this is something I'm dealing with, but it's also helping to keep yourself going and keeping yourself maybe moving on from day to day, that can be helpful. But if being busy becomes an avoidance again, like you're trying to not think about it, you're trying to no, I don't have a problem, I'm just gonna do this, then I would say that can actually maybe contribute or make it even worse, because I would say it's kind of like, let's say you sprain your ankle, right? And so you're going, no, I don't have a sprained ankle, I'm just gonna keep walking around from day to day, I'm just gonna do all the things I normally do. Usually your ankle gets worse, it's not gonna get better. Yeah, so if we do it for a sprained ankle, we can also do it for mental health issues, basically.
I see. Okay, thank you for the very, very good advice. So, you guys, I think do it in moderation, I would say. And don't just think that, gaming is the best way or a better way, then you keep gaming until you forget the seats, So let's move on to the next question. This one to our warriors, to our guests. What makes you pick yourself up and face the truth finally, like face the reality and go seek professional help finally? Aki, would you like to share on that? Did you finally overcome your fear and then get up and move on and time to time to fight this demon inside you? How?
Because in my case, I think it's a very interesting issue, because I thought that I was a bad person. Like I literally think, like at the time, I was thinking I was a horrible person. I was manipulative. I was thinking all those things, and then I was thinking maybe I could, because I'm such a bad person, I need to, that is something I need to do. I need to talk to a psychiatrist. I need to fix myself. Because all I'm doing at the time was hurting people and using people, and that's like one of the reasons. And I don't think that's like a great reason, but I it led me to getting better. But for me, my reason wasn't very, very noble. It was more like I felt like there was something wrong with me that I need to fix it, and I didn't know how. And that was one of the ways, I think, because sorry.
So I think Sophie, right? I get your the fact
yes.
Sophie did also play a big part in getting help to get yourself up also, right?
Yes, because I asked her, because I had no idea where to go find a psychiatrist or anybody to talk to, like professional help. I had no idea, and Sophie is she's very smart. I always
Okay.
I see her as that. Like she's somebody who knows. She does a lot of reading. She's like the person that knows a lot of things. Like memes, she knows memes. She knows games. She knows a lot of things. So I asked her,
Okay.
and I asked her about like, do you know anybody who is a psychiatrist or anything that can help me with this situation I'm going through? And coincidentally, because she never said it before, and funny enough, because we've been friends for 7 to 6 years at the time, but she never mentioned that her mother was a psychiatrist.
Okay.
And then she was like, "Oh, if you really want help, I can talk to my mom about it." And then me and my other, because I have two best friends. One is her, one is Kimmy, and Kimmy and me were just like, "Wait, what? Your mom's a psychiatrist?" and it led to that.
Coincidence.
Yeah. And I just talked to her mother, and I was comfortable enough to talk to her mother about it.
I see. Okay, let's move to Sam. I think you talk about it a while ago. Like your family suggests that you go see a
Yeah.
doctor or something. Yeah. Would you like to share?
With the first initial diagnosis, my family was the one who took me to it because they saw it right up close. I was coming home, I was feeling crap about myself, and I was taking it out on everyone at home. And then that was the first one. That was the first time they took me out. But I think when it was the second time last year where it got really bad that was the time when I had one or two friends who saw the change. It was more of them rather than my parents, because I tried my best not to tell my parents or show my parents, because I had somehow convinced them that I had got well over the years, and I didn't want to break the illusion back to them. So there was a friend who I mentioned. I think he was the one I said earlier on when we first started. There was this very spiritual movement about it. He told me to kind of find within myself what I was attracting and how I was being kind, not so much to other people but to myself, because it was a kind of unkindness that I was doing to myself. Because I was beating myself up, right? Most of the time I was telling myself that I was useless and I didn't belong in this world. And so he taught me in a very holistic way to look at it as something that how I was treating my own soul, so to speak. So it was kind of like trying to practice time to meditate, to find some mindfulness to it. And then to find the joy in the things I did, because I wasn't enjoying things like going to the gym. I wasn't enjoying things like going to eat or sleep. And most of the time I was just trying to avoid all these things and avoid people as well. So he said, if you're avoiding everyone, you can't avoid yourself. So retreat into yourself and find yourself. And that was the thing that helped me. So yeah, props to my friend Jin, who helped me with finding myself. And then it was my best friend Sarah who then saw the other aspect of it, and she's like, "What? You are trying to kill yourself? We are going to the doctors tomorrow." And she booked the appointment. She booked the appointment and dragged me to the doctor. And I was still very unsure of whether I wanted to walk through the doctor's doors, because I told her, it was a problem that was 8 years ago and 8 or 9 years ago, and we haven't solved it. What makes you think that a doctor can make a change this time? And she was like, "No, but you haven't seen the doctor. It's time to go back and sort it out." So she walked with me. She sat through the consultation with me. She sat in the consultation room, in the waiting room. I went for the consultation. I came out, and then she just stood by me, and that was the thing I think that really helped. So these two people were the only people who knew for a good 6 months before I told other people, who were very shocked. And that was it. So there was finding the balance between spiritual, finding the balance with medical, and then of course there's gaming. I did find joy in gaming again. So slowly, bit by bit, I did practice that moderation bit, because right? You spend too much. So
all of us know about it.
Yeah, but not Candy Crush, no Candy Crush.
Of course.
Especially when
Candy
it's
Crush
a
will be
major
super
title.
stress.
Yeah, it's a major title and it's super story driven one. You don't want to even it's time for bed. Oh, let me play for another 5 minutes.
Exactly. Actually, for me, one of the things that I felt that was a real help, open world games, because I felt liberated. Like when I was playing open world games, I felt like someone and not. Yeah, and I was able to do things that I felt that I was not able to achieve in life, and being able to feel and achieve that in the game, and getting achievements and stuff like that was kind of reaffirming as well. Yeah, so
traveling. the things that
Yeah.
you can't
Damn
really
you
do.
game developers, you take all my money. And my mental health issues.
Yeah. Good,
Yeah.
take it away. So that was it. I think that's for me. That was how I holistically married all different three components together in order to kind of get that. And the seeds thing, I think that Jeremy brought up earlier on, exercise and dieting and sleep, that would really help, because I realized when I was depressed, when I wasn't getting enough sleep, I felt like crap the next morning and I hated everything. So yeah, so that was kind of like that's a good guide, I would say.
And I think
So,
the reason.
Yeah,
What?
what's your?
No,
what
I
you would
was
like
gonna
to
say,
add?
like, I think the reason why the seeds things is a bigger thing is because, like, when you do these things, like when you exercise, when you talk to people, it's actually considered in a way like an achievement for a day.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Small
and
steps,
then you
baby
feel
steps,
better
yeah.
about yourself slowly, bit by bit.
Yeah, eventually leads to recovery and all this healthy stuff. So what about Lee? Do you have someone that you want to shout out to because they actually saved your life and get you out of that dark hole? Would you want to share with us?
I guess it would be my family, I guess, but since I'm going under the pseudonym Lee, so they don't know that I'm on this podcast. So, but I'm eternally grateful to them, and it's also because I did seek help at first, and I was very frustrated with that doctor. And then eventually, when I came home, I met another doctor because enough is enough. It's like being like abusing substances and everything is a long trail, and it has a great effect in my body. And so I went to see another doctor who definitely helped me, and he worked with me, which has a totally different personality from the previous doctor. Seeing the right person who actually helps. And at the same time, I was actually, I wouldn't say being religious, but I would say I pay more attention to Buddhism, which there must be a reason that helped that make all my Buddhist friends, because in Buddhism we seek happiness, and the more I study into it, the more I think about it, the more I practice it, the happier I become. And I don't know, so that kind of worked. And in terms of gaming, yes, it does solve a temporary stress. It's like, oh, this guy just drives me nuts, so I'm just gonna bash some monster on Diablo. So that works. But yeah, I think in no specific order, I guess. I just like Sam said, spiritually, for me it's more of a religious thing, and the more I understand about it, because part of the things that we study in Buddhism is that the past is the cause of the present, and the present is the future is the effect of the present. So if you can't help to think about the past, you can't change anything, but what you can do is you make causes so that you can have the great effect you want in the future. So it does help people eliminate, even myself, eliminate a lot of depression, thinking about the past, or a lot of anxiety, worrying about the future. It just makes me focus on the present, and that kind of helped me. And also because we believe in karma and all that things. So yeah. I've been ongoing for almost a year now. So
Wow.
I've been clean for more than a year now. So it's okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Quite happy with that.
good also from a religion point of view. If you have faith, whatever your belief or your faith is, just go ahead if you want to do that. If you can seek salvation, if you can start cleansing your life, yourself, and or even turn over a new leaf. With any religion or whatever religion you think you can or you want, just do it. So yeah. Let's go on to the next one. I think this one I need. Oh, we actually are coming to the end of the podcast as well, because I was like, oh, maybe a few more questions. But we have one more question for Jeremy.
Sure.
After this, the other guys like Lee, Sam, and Aki, if you want to add on or anything that we haven't shared or I missed out, you can, we are more than welcome to share it. So,
Yeah, sure.
to Jeremy, what would you advise the streamers or the gamers, I think this is more towards the streamers, because all of us here, most of us are streamers. Like, oh, Kambing Golek, welcome to the stream. I didn't realize. I mean, I realize you are there, but I want to say hi to you. Kambing Golek is in the house, people. Okay, what would you advise streamers or the viewers? Sometimes streamers, they play games and they turn on the camera, they show what they're playing to the people, in the world to see, and then some of them just come to the stream. They realize that someone is breaking down emotionally, or showing signs of anxiety or depression. Maybe it's the streamer themselves showing that on the screen or on the camera, or maybe someone will come in and suddenly type in all the stories. I'm going through this right now and I feel very depressed and I want to kill myself. What is your advice to them? How to react? How to help them? But not be a hero.
Right.
Not trying to be a hero. So, what is your take, Jeremy?
Okay. Before I answer that question, can I just address two things that I thought about when especially Ali was answering the previous question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Because Lee mentioned that he actually went to a doctor first that he wasn't comfortable with, and then after that I went to a second one who was very, very different. So I would like to point out also that if you do, for any of us who is going for therapy or any form of or seeing a mental health professional, if you are not comfortable with them, it's perfectly okay to say I'm not comfortable with you, and if that cannot be worked out, then to go and find somebody else who you are comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, you do need to feel safe with this person, to be able to open up to them and to be able to begin that journey towards wellness with them as well. So I think that's a very important point to point out. Yes. Okay. Coming back to the question, what would I advise streamers to do, or if whether the viewers or the streamers? I think it's a little bit difficult, especially because there's sometimes a little bit of a disconnect. But what might be helpful is basically showing care and concern to the person. If somebody does come in like that, then it's usually not very helpful to invalidate their emotion, like, oh, what are you doing here? Take it somewhere else. But to maybe ask, hey, are you okay? How is this? And you can very gently point out that it's difficult to. These are difficult situations to deal with. If you have the resources, maybe providing some links that I think Joe, you can also kind of put out for them. Yeah. So you can maybe advise them to maybe look for help, and to essentially help them feel human, to thank them maybe for sharing their stories, because sometimes it is a difficult thing to do, to begin opening up and saying, I have these problems. So showing that care and concern, and to point out gently that, well, you seem to be experiencing or going through something very difficult. Maybe these are some areas that you can definitely look for help in. So if they do need to talk, for example, I think you mentioned before that Befrienders does provide a crisis hotline, or other places like even the center that I'm currently with, Relate Malaysia. We actually do online psychotherapy, so they don't need to go to a physical location sometimes to be able to begin getting help, essentially. Yeah.
I see. Thanks for your input as well. So, I think because why I asked this question initially is during early of the years we have been reading a lot of news from reputable and also very famous and popular streamers on Twitch that came out suddenly. They were going through depression and mental health illness, especially like that guy, I couldn't remember his name suddenly. That guy went through divorce, and then there's this doctor. Anyway, he was sharing, his personal life with with his Twitch community, his viewers, and then he was cheating, behind his wife, and then things just, shit just hit the fan, and then everyone knows about it, and then of course he went through depression and whatnot, and they are very there's this channel called Man versus Game or something like that. He also broke down in tears, in front of the camera, and then start telling people that he actually is suffering, with depression and then whatnot. And people were like, "Oh my God, I come here to see you play games, but then suddenly you just cry. So what do I do?" Or the other way around. But this also works with people around you, like just very simple things like make them feel human again. Or sometimes you just be there, be present, be available, listen to them. Doctor disrespect, yes, Rinse. Just listen to them. Sometimes you don't have to say a word. I've seen like some movie like offering a bottle of water or a drink or something, it will also cheer somebody up. So we want to go to the follow-up question. How do we always keep it positive? Do you some kind, like, do you have a mantra or do you actually have like a physical exercise to distress, when sometimes we just cannot get ourselves out of the loop? If you happen to experience, you have that kind of feeling or experience or that kind of thought, like I always do, what is your advice, Jeremy? What do you do?
Well, honestly, I would actually say that sometimes staying positive all the time isn't necessarily helpful, because as humans, we do experience up and downs in life. And so part of what has actually been shown to be helpful is to begin learning how to accept that there will be these up and down moments, essentially. Yeah. But in terms of de-stressing or maybe dealing with anxiety, especially the physiological side of things, there are various exercises that have been shown to help. Normally, especially if you're kind of stuck in your mind at the point in time, what can be helpful is to do what we call grounding exercises. So to do something that engages your senses, so something to touch. So some people find like just running your hand through sand is very helpful. Other people go for a meal, drink something, like they bite a lemon, for example, to just help you come back to the present, and to be mindful, essentially, if that makes sense.
I see.
Yeah. In terms,
how about just joke? I suddenly thought of this. How about like a punching toy, like on our office desk?
Yeah.
Would that be helpful?
Can be helpful. Yes.
Garam. Or sometimes when we got like so down, why sometimes I just blame myself. Why am I so stupid? Or where did I do wrong? Why my boss keep telling me this and that? Why can I? So keep on blaming myself, keep on putting myself down. So sometimes that thing just, when it's at the right spot, I just want to punch it. So is that also useful?
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. It's one of the reasons why stress balls have become like quite a lot more, like they're a lot more present
popular
nowadays.
Yeah.
So that actually is shown to be helpful. However, the thing about all these things is that they're usually temporary and very short-term solutions. So if you do find that there is a continuous pattern of maybe self-doubt or self-blaming, especially like I'm useless, I can't do anything right, or a variety of things like that, what's wrong with me, then I would say actually it might be helpful to talk to somebody, especially a mental health professional, to begin unpacking what's happening here. Because at the end of the day, if we just deal with the symptoms, like just helping with the here and now, that is helpful, but it usually will not last long term.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I think just one more question. I think I managed to screenshot one question from the viewer. Penguin Lie 2002 said, I have one more question. Sometimes I feel emo out of nowhere. Like I will be sitting down doing nothing and my mind will just start to overthink. Then I'll feel more emotional and I'll start crying and until no more tears. How should I avoid overthinking? Jeremy, do you have advice?
That's a tough one.
Life hacks, please, because I need that too.
I will interject and say that there were many episodes where I was driving in my car and I would think of things and I would just cry in my car, but I always felt a lot better about it. So I won't say that it's overthinking. I would say that once in a while, I think it's good to have a good cry. I am not ashamed. I'm not ashamed to admit I cry. Yes. But
no,
I think,
real men cry, guys.
yeah.
All right.
We come to a point, the same way we have this social stigma about depression. I think we have this social stigma also about crying, men crying and really letting it out. So I think it's no shame to let out the fact that we are sad sometimes and we are overwhelmed and we have a lot of things on our mind. It's okay to think about it, reflect, and then just let go. And just think of it as a cleansing thing. That was one of the things my friend told me when I was going through the thing. He's like, let it out, let it go, just cry. And like I think Jeremy also mentioned, it's not really conducive to be positive all the time. We are humans and we all eventually will have to let it out. So don't think of it as overthinking. Think of it as reflecting and then letting go. And crying is one way. Crying is the version of your physical form of your emo. Physical form of your whatever negative going out.
Yeah. So Jeremy, you have something to add?
Yes, I echo Sam in this case that sometimes having a good cry is actually very helpful. And for Penguin Lie, is it?
Penguin Lie, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes overthinking may be a result of something that you are currently experiencing or going through, or it may be a pattern, or just a way that has been just happening for so long that it becomes very automatic. So what can be helpful is to begin noting down what are the thoughts that are happening, and to begin asking yourself, are these thoughts necessarily true? Of course, usually you want to do this when you're feeling a bit better. If you are crying and you're really upset, then this can be very difficult to do. So cry it out, take a bath, after you calm down a little bit, then it can also be helpful to begin examining the thoughts and asking, okay, are these thoughts true? And some of the questions that we tend to ask are like, what is the worst that could happen? Let's say these thoughts are true. And is it really that bad? Because many times, especially with anxiety, what happens is that what we found to happen is that the anxiety goes, this will happen, and 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 it basically goes down this long slippery slope. Yeah. So to begin, also maybe noting down what are these thoughts kind of saying, and again, if it's been a pattern over the years that you're really struggling with, speaking to a mental health professional can be very helpful again, because again, we are trained to begin to help you figure out and to begin point out these patterns and to start examining them in a safe space to be able to unpack maybe things that are contributing to the thoughts and all of that. Yeah.
Thank you for your invaluable input, Jeremy. So I think, guys, we are coming to the end of the podcast. Because tomorrow is a working day as well. Some of us need to go to bed early, especially me.
Earlier.
Yep. But then before we go, I would like all of you go round table, starting from Aki and then Sam and Jeremy and Ali, to give words of encouragement. Because you guys are warriors, you guys are the survivor. Of your own demon. You have lived or survive through your darkest time and hours. So, what is your word of advice to the people out there, to the people who's watching now on our podcast? Aki,
I guess the
yeah.
main thing is just even if you feel alone, like just know that you're not. There are so many people out there that love and care for you that you might not see at this time, but that will be able to be there for you if you just step out a little bit from that spot where you're at and reach out for help a bit, because there are so many people, I can guarantee you, that love and care for you.
Yeah, Sam.
So like Aki, I think that you cannot disregard the fact that you are loved and a lot of people care about you. But I think one of the things that probably will be great also is for you to always remember that wherever and whoever you are, you deserve that kindness, and you yourself deserve to be loved by your own self. Think of it as your own way of being kind to yourself. And when you ground yourself and think about it, you will have you will get that courage again to reach out. Because most of the time when we are depressed and when we're down, we put ourselves down and we prevent ourselves from going out and seeking out the people who can help us. So being able to be kind helps us, eventually reach out to others, and that will be a great way to start. So always be sure to look at yourself in the mirror and realize that you are an important person and you matter to everyone and to the world.
We go to Ali first. Ali.
I think I mentioned this before earlier, 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, that this phrase that don't worry about the things about the past. Don't let that bring you. Don't let that bring depression. Get you depressed, and you don't have to be so anxious about the future, because what you're doing now is what will determine the future. So you just focus on what you're doing at the present.
Word of wisdom. What about Jeremy? Your word of advice.
I will echo what my supervisor loves to tell me, that I firmly believe also. The first one is that there is no health without mental health, and I very firmly believe this. And the second one is that basically we're all human. We can ask for help. Even therapists, I myself go for therapy also. So if you do need help, please reach out for it. And there are people out there who, I think, as we've heard from these amazing people, who love you and who are there to support you also, whether it's a therapist or whether it's your friends or family. So
yeah, even though you are not sure whether you need help or not, you can also reach out. You should also reach out to ask for help. Yeah. So guys, that's it from all of us this time. And I really want to say big thank you to all, especially like Aki, Carlito, Ali, Jeremy Lim, and Sam for taking the time, making the time, especially, and the people behind the scene as well, especially Zara, Billy the Kitter, and also Crew for helping me making this podcast a successful one, a smooth one, even though we started late. Just forgive us because we have some technical issues. And all you awesome guys, all you awesome gamers and streamers who take the time to drop by at Fun Devil's channel, don't forget to go and check them out, fundevil.com. Sign up and then become a member. It's free and it's fun. You get to do a lot of exercises and adventures. And if you want to know more, you can also ask. I think Lilia is still in the chat. Lilia is the founder and CEO of Fun Devil. Thanks to her. And yep, that's all from now. Everyone say bye.
Bye. Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye. Much love, guys. Much love.